And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be figuring out how to apply the actual damage to the character, how to make the character accept receive damage, and how to apply that to at least one of the enemy characters. So the enemy character that we're going to use is going to be the stationary mine, being that is the simplest one. It doesn't have a whole lot of extra complex code, so we'll see just how this works. And then from there, we'll, in other videos, apply it to, let's say, the homing missiles and then to the projectiles that are being shot at us. So let's go ahead and start. So in order to do this, we need to apply code to two pieces. The first piece is going to be to the first-person character. This is actually the easier part. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll select our first person character and we'll go into the blueprint editor for them. So this could be also, you can right click, go up here to the world outliner and open it from there, which I'll show you. With it selected, you can always click here to open up the editor. Or you can always go back to content first person BP, open up the blueprint, click on the player, and then double click to open it. All right, so just to back out so that we can see everything that we have. And I think my mouse is dying. Why are my buttons not working? Okay, so now that we have this open and I have got a new mouse, let's just zoom in to the event begin play, and we see there that we have the widget that we created in the previous tutorial. And this is how that's coming in. The piece of code that we need to add is actually a new event. So we don't need to attach it to the sequence or anything like that. I just like to put it here because it's close to where the viewport would be that deals with health, right? So trying to keep like things together when it comes to how they, where they are in the code and how they might apply to other pieces of the code. So let's right click here in the space. Oh, and before we do this, I'm actually, never mind. We don't need to have anything selected over here to get this to work. So we're going to right click and we're going to type in event any damage. Okay, so this is underneath event game damage, event game damage. Let's go ahead and select it. So you see it comes in as its own event. And basically, when we look at this, we say we have an execute, we have a damage amount or a damage number, and then we have a couple of objects that we can attach. For us, we're only going to need to use the top two. And to make this work, we're actually going to use a set and a get instance of the current health. So let's go and set one of them as get and set, let's grab another one, current health, and add this as set. So basically what we're saying here, basically what we need to do is we need to say whatever the damage amount is that's coming in, subtract that from the current health and give us our new value, right? So whatever the new value that's going to take in the health. So we'll attach this to the execute of the set. What we're looking for is a subtract. So if we right click and we actually type in or hit the subtract on your number pad, what you're looking for is a float minus float. And what that will do is give us the new value and allow us to be able to subtract whatever the damage amount is from the current health. So the damage amount is going to be the smaller of the two numbers, and it's going to be what's being subtracted from the current health. So the current health is always going to be the top number. That is the number that you're subtracting from, and the damage will be coming in. So if we get hit the first time, let's say the damage is 50, our current health would be 100. We run into, let's say, the mine. It takes out 50% of our health, and then we are left with 50%. If let's say it hits us and we get hit 40%, then it'll give us 60% left, right? The new number will be 60%, so it's not 50-50. Because yeah. Anyways, so that's all we have to do here for the damage to be able to apply damage to the first person character. So let's go ahead and hit compile and save. And the next thing that we're going to need to do is add damage to the cylinders, to the mines. So I'm going to go back to a_enemy. I'm going to find the mine. And in the mine, what I need to do is we still want this to be an overlap, right? So I'm going to pull the overlap event out, and I'm going to add a little bit of something before it gets to the sequence. So what we'll need to do is apply the damage and then have the object be destroyed, because that's basically what the rest of this was, right? So off of the execute of the overlap for the barrel, what we want to do is type in cast to first person, and we're looking for character. Excuse me. Just had to check my phone because it sounded like something important. But anyways, so we have the overlap. We then have the cast to first person character. We need to make sure that this is going to go to the first person character. So we're going to click off of object and type in get player character. All right. We're going to make a duplicate copy of that, Control C, Control V, and we're going to, and we need one more thing. So let me pull this back just a little bit more. Get those even with each other. Okay, and then we need the function that actually is going to apply the damage. So off of the execute from here, we're going to type in apply damage. Okay, and the function that we're looking for is underneath game, damage, apply damage. And from there, the damaged actor is going to be the first person player, right? So our the player character 0. And from there, we get to apply the damage amount. So let's go with the 40-60 split, right? So I'm going to say 40% damage. So this means I'll be able to run into 2 mines and I should have 20% of my life left, right? So 10% from the first damage, and another 10 from the second one. So let's go ahead and hit compile and save. And let's go run into these things and see if they do indeed remove. Let's see what I'm working. Okay, so we run into the mine and we see that our progress bar did indeed go down. So let's run into the next one. Okay, based on my math, we should have about 20% of my life left. And if I run into the last one, that should be the end of the game. Okay, so my health bar is now all the way down at 0. And I'll show you guys how to go into menu screens. We'll get into that. If it's not 9, it's 10. For menu screens, and there would be a menu screen that comes up and says you have lost, or whatever the lose condition is, and the options that you give the player after they lose once their health bar has gone all the way down to 0. So that's basically it. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. Let's go ahead and take one quick look again and see what we did. So we're going to go to the S mine. I'm going to back out. All we did was grab the event, type in cast to player, make sure that we had it going to the player character, applied the damage, and then gave it a number. Now, the reason why this is working is not because of the code. Obviously, that's part of it. But the reason why this is working is because of collision settings. So we applied this to a static mesh object, right? So the static mesh, and that static mesh right now is labeled as a world dynamic. It's sensing, query, and physics, and it's blocking everything except it's overlapping with the pawn, and that is allowing for a generate overlap event to take place. We go to the first person character, we go to their viewport. We see this is what's making contact with the mine. That's where, remember that the mine is on the floor, so this is the part of our character that's touching. From there, we click on it, scroll down to the collision settings that are set there, and it is set to pawn. So remember that smine is generating an overlap event with pawns. From there, that's the reason why if this was labeled to something else, we would be able to run. You know what? Let's just do that real quick because this should be easy enough to do. We'll go to custom. This is we're still labeled as a pawn, so let's call ourselves a world static. So nothing else changed except that we went from pawn, right? So if we go back into pawn, we see what the presets are for that. We're labeled as a pawn. So I'm going to go to custom, change us to a world static. And if we do this now, if we run into these, they will no longer, and in fact, they don't even explode anymore. Because remember, it's the pawn that's causing the overlap effect, right? So because our character is no longer labeled as a pawn, this effect no longer takes place. Now it still works with the ammunition, and the problem there, look at that. So this is actually what we're going to be talking about in the next video, is that anything labeled pawn, when it hits that, is going to now cause you damage. So that's not a good thing. So let's go back and reset that, and we'll pick this up in the next video as far as being able to set up a new class for the projectile, and transfer the damage code information to the projectile as well. So then that way we're applying the damage code to because it doesn't always fall in the same place. So depending on what you may already have in the code, where the apply damage part of it goes may change. So we're going to do this for all the enemies, and we're going to see how we can apply damage to each one of the enemies, and that'll be the next video. Okay, but just very quickly, I'm going to just go back and reset this, so then that way we have everything working the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to go back to my first person character. I'm going to go to pawn. I'm going to reset them as a pawn. So I'm going to go back to collision presets, select pawn. Everything went back to normal. So this now is labeled as a pawn. I'm going to hit compile and save. And we should still have both things happening. I should be able to run into it, and it should cause me damage. Okay, so that is working. The projectile is probably still labeled as a pawn, so when I shoot the barrel, it also did cause me damage, even though it wasn't me walking into it. So everything is where we'll need it to be for the third video in this series. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.